Yo, what up, though? It's your boy Street Coder Nate, and we back at it again. Yes, again. We talking about where we at with it. We talking about creating the UI. Now, before we just created in the previous video in part one, we created the React application, tongue twister. We created the React application, and then we served it via the Node.js application with the build. We also have a React development server that we're going to use now to develop our application. And then when we get satisfied, we'll build it. And then our Node.js application can serve our React index.html file. But what we also going to do is connect the service that we created, the Instagram service on the back end. We're gonna connect that to the front end button and show that data and make it look nice. We're gonna make it all connect. Let's get it. And real dope, we're gonna use Material UI. I love using Material UI. My favorite thing about React when I code React is that I get to use Material UI. I'm like, bet Material UI. And for me, it's like real dope for the layout features. Cause like CSS, like most front end developers most developers hate front end because like of the like CSS, and they say it don't make sense. But if you really take time to understand CSS, it's like it really do make sense. Like it makes sense after a while in terms of layout. And so after I got my understanding of CSS, I went to started developing vanilla.js websites. But then I went on further and got into React. And in React, I was doing CSS and whatnot, but then I saw Material UI and I saw how they were doing it, and I was like, oh shit, that's dope. They make CSS for like programmers, like it's more programmer friendly. So I was like, cool. You know what? I love Material UI for that, and it makes my whole layout situation dope, and I still get to use CSS in the underhood, but I'm using like programming, like tactics on top. So it's real dope. Material UI, all of that, and then they give you different components that you can use in your website that we're going to use. We about to tap in. Let's get it. Man, I keep getting parched though. So hold up. All right, let's hop over to this React app. Over here. Okay. So in this React app, let's first open up the files again. We could close the back end for right now. We don't really need anything in the back end right now. Close that up. Okay. So let's take a look at the files. So right now in the source, we write all our code inside of the SRC. And before we even do all of that, let's fire up the application. I actually did already, but I can stop it. And for anybody that's following along, it's just npm start inside of the front end directory. Bada boom, bada bang. There we go. I had it open over here too, but let's move. All right, bet. Cool. All right, that's our front end application. Let's get popping. All right, so what are these files in the source? The source, it comes with like some prepackaged code already so that you know that your application is working right out the box. But we don't really need all this code. So let's take a look at the code that we do need. Let's go. For me, I usually do keep the app.js. I know some people who delete it, but the app.js is pretty much is what's loading all of this stuff. So like actually we not gonna use any of that stuff. So let's just go ahead and bada boom, bada bop. Like that, and if we refresh the page like that, I like always going this way, so I don't know what that is. We'll figure that one out. All right, cool. So so now our app is just a blank app. Cool. But you see that we're importing this SVG. We don't need that SVG, so we can save that. We also import in this app.css. Let's see what they got over there. Some BS that we don't need, so let's delete that. And you know what I'll do over here? I'll import my CSS reset. That's usually what I do. I usually do my CSS reset in app.css. Like these. Cool. And let me just make sure that it's working. I'm gonna put H1. I don't get my little shortcuts. H1, I'm gonna just say, what up, dude? here. All right, cool. Yep, we there. H1 is blank, regular. Let's get it. But I'm actually gonna take the. Got the margin. What they got? Let me say text. Yeah, font. There it is. Font. Select input button. Okay, we good. All right, bet. So, all right, we got our CSS reset connected, and we got our app.js just cleared out. Let's see what this app.test.js. This is just setting up a regular test for our app. Then we got our index.css. Let's see what this is for. We got index.css, which is imported inside of something. Imported somewhere. Let's figure that out. You can use Command-Shift-F. You can go index.css. And you can see that it's imported inside the index.js file. Okay, so it's imported inside the index.js file. Let's go check out the index.js file. That's right underneath the index or .css. So cool, we here. It's imported inside the index.js. Well, first, the index.js imports the React. React is just a library that allows us to write our React code inside the HTML and whatnot. Then we have importing the React DOM from the React DOM library. The React DOM is kind of like the JavaScript DOM, but it's like behind the scenes, and it really help you run your React code really efficiently. That's what I'm saying, that the Node.js server that we're building is not doing like that React DOM stuff behind the scenes. So we need this React server, development server, in order for it to do it efficiently, or else we have to build every time. Okay, and so that's why we have the React DOM. We importing that, and then we have on line 3 we importing the CSS. Makes sense. And then we import the app that we were building over here because we exported it over there. Okay, cool. And we're back at index.js, and then we got some report web vitals. So if you're watching the app and whatnot. And so on line 7, we use the React DOM, and we say render. So remember, the DOM renders the HTML, and so our React DOM is going to render our React elements and whatnot. Our React elements are called JXX. So our React DOM is going to render JXX. And so the JXX that it renders is the React strict mode. Strict mode just for like development and whatnot. We're going to change that sooner or later. And then all this rendering is the application right there. All right, bet. And then after it renders it, it says document.getElement by ID root. Oh, my bad. It calls, React DOM calls render, which is a function. And that render function takes in 2 arguments. It takes in the argument that it needs to render, which is this component from lines right here. This component from lines 8 through 10. That's the component that is going to render. And then you see this comma on line 10 right about here. Right there. You see that comma right there. That comma is separating the parameter list. Therefore, this is the second parameter. And the second parameter is asking it, where do you want this component rendered? And it says, I want it to be rendered by the root. And so you kind of like, where the hell is root at? So I'll go ahead and copy shift find root. Let's figure out where that hoe at. Go figure out where root at. Okay, you see it right there. But more so specifically, I know the one I'm looking for right here. This is the root I want to show y'all right here. Okay. So this is the HTML file, and let's see where this HTML file is. This HTML file is in the public. And remember what I said the build does. The build takes the public folder and it takes the source folder and it makes one folder together called the build. And so this HTML file lives in the public folder, and it has this HTML element, this div element called, it's just a div with an ID root. And so if you come back to the app.js, or if you come back to we're gonna keep that there. If you come back to the index.js, you'll see that we have a document.getElement by ID root. And this is just regular JavaScript, right? And document.getElement by ID, what does it do? It grabs that element. So it's grabbing this HTML element right here, is grabbing it by ID, and then what it's going to do is place this React application in that whatnot. Shut up, Siri. Okay, it's gonna place that React application inside this div element. That's all it's doing. Okay, cool. So we could keep it like this. That's gonna be our little setup. And I usually keep app.js because app.js is usually like my setup component. So I'll make my I'll make my container inside the app.js, and then I'll load my components inside of the app so that it's not all messy and whatnot. And then if I have a bigger app, usually app.js, then it's like my router app, and I'm just creating all my routes inside of app.js, and then the components are linked there. So, but here we're not making a multi-page application. So app.js is just going to be the container, and then it will load the different components that we need. So how am I going to make this a container? I told you we were going to use, what's that shit called? Material UI. So we finna tap in with Material UI. Material UI is dope. Is honestly dope. It comes from Material Design, which is from Google, and it's pretty much just like a design template. Like if you are to design front end or if you are to design front end websites or mobile applications, here are some specifications you can follow if you need some inspiration. And so you can come over here. You see the guideline, material theming. Let's go to material theming overview. So you see here's a button, and it just gives you like just different examples on how to create things. And then it'll actually give you the code too for certain things. So material UI, this is someone said, oh, that design specification that Google put out called material design, I'm going to create a React library of all of these components and of the layout too, and I'm gonna give it to y'all and y'all can use it. And so this is material UI, and I love it because it's dope. And the best part about it is, if you know me, with front end, I love CSS because of Flexbox. Flexbox makes everything so dope. And so Material UI just got Flexbox pretty much just built right into it. Oh, this is the wrong. I'm like, why am I not seeing it? Okay, yeah, it got Flexbox built pretty much right into it using the grid component. And so we gonna see what's we gonna be using the grid component every single time pretty much on my channel. Like every single time I get to use React, I get excited because I get to use Material UI. Yeah, so here we go. We got to use Material UI. I just make creating the front end so quicker and dope, real fast. So here I am. I should work at Google, shouldn't I? All right, so my favorite thing to do with Material UI is use the grid, and the grid like it helps me lay out my application. And so what do I mean by that? Let's actually take a look back at the iPad real quick, because we haven't been to the iPad in a minute. Remember, like our design, we want our front end design to look like this, right? We need a title right here. We need a description, and then we need an input box, and we also need a button. So we need that on the home page. We need this to be all centered how it is right here as well. So how I said that the application is going to be the container, think about this outer green box. That's the container. This outer green box right here. That one's the container. Cool. So that's going to be our app. Our app is going to hold everything in it. And then inside the app, let's make another type of container. Let's say this container will be called what is it got? It got title, description, input box. We'll call this the search container. We'll call it the search container. Search container. Dope. Bet. So we call that one the search container. So now the app container has a search container inside of it. And so the search container is gonna have title, and the title is gonna be, we're gonna make this a H1. All right, the title is gonna be a H1. Then it's gonna have a description. We'll make this one like we'll call that one a H4, and then it's gonna have an input box with some we already know that's just an input, and then a button. So we need to add those 4 elements to our web page using Material UI. We need to design it or style it up just how this design is, and we're gonna be able to do that very, very quickly. So let's hop into it. Here we go. Let's get into the code. So back over to the code we go. Using Material UI. So how do I use Material UI? I say, okay, what do I need? Well, first, again, hitting back here is, let's get back to the code. I need to create a container. I need to create a container. So how do I create a container in Material UI? Well, first, you got to use the grid component. And so the grid component allows you to do a lot of things with CSS. I'm not going to explain too much because I'm going to make videos over it specifically. But if you take a look at the code, oh shit, you can't see it. Okay. If you take a look at the code for the grid container or the grid component or using the grid component, this is one of my favorite things about Material UI. It shows you like an example of how to use it. Like it shows you like, here's an example. And then it's like, you can also see the code for this example, which is dope. So it's like, you can actually copy this code right over to your file and it'll show right up on that hoe. That shit is dope. All right, so one thing I'm noticing is that they import the grid component because they want to use the grid component. Cool. And now when they want to use the grid component, it's inside the render function, right? They're rendering it. And you can create a container by saying grid and passing in a container prop. And then if I need items, this will be like, I just say grid item. So just give me an item inside my container. This is like CSS Flexbox. You don't understand that, go check out that video. I already created. Okay. Bet. So now what we want to do is create a container. So looking at this example, well, first we need to import, or first we need to install Material UI. So let's go do that first. It's install Material UI. And that is right here. Oops. Install Material UI. So we got to do that with npm in our project directory. Let me just go back like that first. And then we're going to go make sure we are in the front end. PWD. And CD into the front end. All right, cool. So now that we in the front end, we can install Material UI. Bet. That gives us Material UI core. I wonder for, no, I don't need it for that. Do I need it? No, I don't. Okay, cool. I should be straight. If not, we will find out. Okay, so now that we have Material UI core, we can use Material UI. So let's get it. And we gonna bang that hoe. And so we're gonna import Material UI into this file, just like they did over in on Material UI. Over here. Like I tell you, I just go back to the examples. Pretty much, I honestly be in this hoe just copying. Like that. When they say coding is kind of copying, it's like it is, but you gotta understand what you copying. Okay, cool. So I just imported the grid. So now I can use the grid. So instead of having div here, I'm gonna put grid. Cool. And I need that one to turn to grid. Cool. So I just turn that to grid. And now I can turn this, well, I can keep it the class name, but I can also give it container, right? Cool. So now my grid is a container. So if I come over to my React app, I got what up though, and I refresh it, it's a grid container. One thing dope though, let's inspect it real quick. I know it's gonna pop up down here, hell yeah. Let me put it over there. Okay, there we go. Let's inspect this real quick. So if we hover over the div item right here, you see this div, that div right there. Let's see if I can make this bigger. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna do this, bring it up. Okay, cool. So if we hover over this div item right here, this div, you seeing it is in blue. So we're hovering over it now. It says movie grid root app movie grid container. Remember, we use the grid item in React, but here it's saying it's a div and it's adding all these different classes on it. That's what happens with the React. Like the compiler I was telling y'all about, our development machine is doing this in the background. It's taking this and is crunching that real fast in the background for development mode, but for production mode, it can't do it that fast. So it's inefficient. This is the reason why we're using a development server to develop, and then afterwards we do the production build. And then what it will do is the production build will build all of this out for us and just keep that stagnant or static file, and it will not change. And then we'll have to change it whenever we make a change in the development. You feel me? Okay, cool. But anyway, this gives us a whole bunch of different classes from CSS. That's dope. One of the different classes it gives us is a movie grid root and a movie container. And inside a movie container, what we can say is justify. This gives us access to flexbox items. So we can say justify, and we can say it equals center, like that. And watch this. Everything just popped to the center like that. We got real good access to the layout now from Flexbox, and it's dope too. Is ridiculously dope. All right, so if we hover over this too, you see that the blue line is also just ridiculously, it's all the way full. It's full, right? That's the width. We can access the width real cool too, just by quick little properties using XS, MD, LG, and XL. You know, it's kind of like Bootstrap. So this is dope because it's mixing Flexbox and Bootstrap into like one component and giving you all the access right here. So let's say that for medium screens and above, I want my width to be 10, and this is 10 out of 12. And if you know how websites are set up with the 12 bars, this is saying out of those 12 bars I want 10 of them, and I said I centered them, so that means it's gonna be a bar on the left side and a bar on the right side, and the center in the middle is going to be where the width is. And this is how I just control the width, just like that. Watch that. So we refresh, and something went wrong somewhere. The prop MD of a grid must be used. Oh, it has to be on an item. I forgot about that. Okay, my bad. So yep, you can't put it on the actual grid container because the container is the full container. You gotta put it on the actual item. So if we come justify center, all right, it should be refreshed. All right, cool. So if we come over here now, open that up, go here. Okay, there we go. You'll see that the H1 is just squished. What if I want the H1 to take the full width of the div, right? I want the H1 to take the full width. So here I will tell the H1 to become a grid, or first I'll put the H1 in a grid. I think I gotta get that one plugin I used to have, grid, and the grid is gonna be an item. And I'll tell that item to have, MD equals 10. And then, then I'll move this H1 inside that item, like that. And I'll come over here. And now if I come to this H1, you see first that MD equals 10 is squished in, like I told y'all. And then now that H1 is also that width. And now if I want to control the H1 specifically, I can tell the H1 just, style, add some regular CSS up in here. Style equals, what we gonna do? We just gonna say color red. Something like that. Did I mess up somewhere? Style property. Oh, you know what? I think I gotta do use styles. It's all good. I ain't gonna add no styles on there. We're gonna refresh it. Cool. But we can do whatever when we needed to do in there, which we will. But honestly, I don't even use regular HTML with Material UI. If I wanted to show an H1, what I will do is come to the Material UI website and grab the zoom out. And what you can do is come over here, and there's this button over here called components. And components are just all of the different Material UI components that was developed using the API. Dope. So I said I need a text input or a text. I need to put text on the screen. So that's like a label or something. You keep scrolling. One thing I don't like to do is scroll forever. So I just come to the search and I put set text. And you see text field right there. And let me take that off right now. I don't need that. So for the text field, that's the API. And let me see, you can go to demos, you can go to text fields. There you go. Actually, I don't need a text field, and that's why you go to the demo. See, the text field is putting in input. We'll use that one for the input later. We actually need to put some like text. What is it? Paragraph. Typography, that's what it is. Typography, we need typography. Cool. So typography, it's gonna allow us to do like H1P, all of those in one tag, just by saying typography. So let's look at an example right here. Oh, that's the API. Where the hell the example at? There we go. Okay, yeah, here we go. So if we open this up, you'll see that, bruh, they're changing the theme. Here we go. This is how they're using typography. You call the flag typography, and then you pass in the variant. I be getting thirsty. All right, so you call the flag typography, or you call the component typography, and you passing in the prop, whatever variant you want, and the variant is like H1, P1, whatever that HTML element you want. And then component is, you don't really need to put the component, but I'll never put it. They put it there. So we gonna end up doing the same exact thing. So let's do that. Let's grab this. And this is for this example. All right, we're gonna hop over here. We're gonna paste that. And I just copied the wrong thing. All right, we're gonna paste that right there. And what we need to do is import typography. Yep. No, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, and we're just gonna say what up, no. And we're gonna come down here and we're gonna say typography, and we're gonna import type TYPO. There, cool. Now if we come over to our app, got what up though saying, showing, and at H1. Cool. And now we can really control this using Material UI. So Material UI is kind of dope because it's like taking regular HTML and then it's just giving us a whole bunch of dope shit that we can do and control right away. So in terms of our application, what do we need to build right now? Come on, Siri, you gotta stop doing that. In terms of our application, we need this middle container, right? Because we already got that outer container. In this middle container, we need what we need. We need the title, then we need that description, then we need the input box, and then we need the button. So let's create that inside of its own component. So going over to the code. So you know what? I thought about it, and this video is already getting long enough. How about we take this video and we make it its own video, and then we see each other in the next video where we're gonna actually develop the whole. We actually developed the entire this right here. Now we understand Material UI, we see what we can do. Now we about to actually get it to use and put this together, connect our front end and back end in this next one. Let's get it. I'll see y'all then. All right, let's get her.